Hello and welcome to GameRules.com. My name is Mark, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Mille Bornes. This is a racing card game for 2 to 6 players in which you are trying to be the first person to go 1,000 miles. While you are setting yourself up to be able to play mile cards or other point cards, your opponents are doing the same, but you're also trying to slow each other down or bring each other to a complete halt. Let's dive in and see what this classic is all about. Out of the box, you will get a 110 card deck, a card tray, and an instruction booklet. To set up the game, shuffle the deck, deal 6 cards to each player, place the rest of the cards face down to form the draw pile. On a player's turn, they will begin by drawing 1 card. Once a discard pile has been started, the player can choose to take the top card from the draw pile or the top card from the discard pile. Please remember that your hand of cards will be kept secret from your opponents. I have them placed on the table for the tutorial, but you're going to keep your hand out of sight. We'll begin the game with the player on the left side of the screen. So they begin their turn by drawing a card. The whole point of this game is to be the first person to reach 1,000 points or more. And you accumulate points by playing distance cards and safety cards. Notice that safety cards have 2 different point values on them. You will earn points for safety cards depending on how they are played, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. In order to start accumulating points with distance cards, there are 2 possible cards that you have to play first. The first and most common is the drive card. Once you have a drive card in play, you can start playing mile cards. There is also a special safety card that, when played, allows you to start playing mile cards. There is only one of these, so if you're lucky enough to get it, you can start playing without a drive card. That is what you need to know to get started with the game, so let's dive in. Our player here on the left of the screen drew their first card. Notice they do not have a drive card, but they do have the emergency vehicle safety card. This will allow them to start playing distance cards, so they're going to go ahead and put it out into their driving zone. Safety cards are placed in what's called the safety zone. So let's go ahead and create some room for our driving zones. Safety cards are placed above your distance cards, which are going to be played right here. Now that this person has their emergency vehicle card in play, on future turns, they can play distance cards. Please note, if you're unable to play a card on your turn, you will simply discard 1, and your hand will go back to 6 cards. So, at the beginning of every turn, you will start with 6 cards, you will draw a card, and you will end your turn with 6 cards. Now that this player has ended their turn, play passes to their opponent. Now, this player draws a card. They add it to their hand, and they do have a drive card to play. So they are going to go ahead and put that in what's called their drive pile. This player is now also set up to begin playing distance cards. That ends their turn. All right, we'll have player 1 take their next turn. They draw a card and add it to their hand. All right, the next thing you need to understand is simply how distance cards are played. To do that, you just choose one of the distance cards from your hand and you play it to your distance area. You're going to have these cards organized by value, so expect to have a row of cards in front of you on the table. There is a special rule regarding 200s. A player can only have 2 200-point cards in their layout. This player has played their card and ended their turn. Play passes. Player 2 draws a card. And they are also going to simply play a distance card. So they'll play that to the right of their drive pile. That ends their turn, and play passes back to player 1. They draw. This time, they're going to go ahead and play a hazard card. So let's talk about hazards. There are 5 different hazard cards in the deck. We have stop, speed limit, out of gas, flat tire, and accident. The speed limit card will simply slow a player down by limiting the maximum value of distance card they can play to their pile. But the other 4 will stop a player completely. keeping them from playing any distance cards. Every hazard card has a remedy, so we'll see how that works here in a second. Player 1 chooses to play their flat tire card on their opponent. Their drive pile is now red. So player 2 will no longer be able to play distance cards until that hazard has been remedied. Player 1 ended their turn by playing a card. So now it is player 2's turn. They begin by drawing. And they do have the appropriate remedy card for that hazard. Let's go back to the reference real quick. As you can see, each hazard has a remedy. Stop cards are remedied by drive cards. Speed limit cards are remedied by end of speed limit. Gas cards remedy out of gas. Spare tires remedy a flat tire. And a repair card remedies an accident card. So player 2 will remedy that flat tire. That ends their turn. Back to player 1. They draw and add that card to their hand. Now they received what's called a safety card. So now is a great time to talk about safety cards. There are 4 types of safety cards. You have the emergency vehicle, the fuel truck, the puncture-proof card, and the driving ace card. Safety cards are played up here in the safety zone, just like this emergency vehicle, and they make you immune to certain hazards. So our emergency vehicle card actually makes this player immune to stop cards as well as speed limit cards. So since this player has the emergency vehicle card in play, player 2 can never play a stop card on them, and they can never put a speed limit card on them. So that is a very powerful card. If you have the fuel truck card, your opponents can never put an out of gas card on you. Puncture proof keeps you from ever getting a flat tire. And driving ace keeps you from ever getting in an accident. So those are very, very powerful cards to have. These cards also contribute to your accumulating point total. So right now, player 1 has 300 points. As I mentioned in the beginning of the vehicle, there is a secondary point value on these safety cards. You earn that point value by playing this card in a special way. And I will get to that here in a moment. Player 1 is going to go ahead and just play another distance card to their distance area. And that ends their turn. All right, so we are back to player 2. They begin by drawing a card. They drew the flat tire hazard card. They are going to go ahead and play that hazard on their opponent. So since our opponent was able to start in a special way with that emergency vehicle card, they don't have a drive pile yet, so this hazard card technically begins the drive pile. Now, here's where we're going to learn about the secondary point value for these safety cards. There's a special move called the coup ferret, and what you can do is if you hold the safety card in your hand rather than play it, you can pull what's called the coup ferret. Since the flat tire was played on this player, they're going to go ahead and basically interrupt by playing puncture proof. Since they're playing it with that special move, it is played horizontally instead of vertically. And that's what denotes the special point value for that card. So the flat tire card is not in effect, and it is just discarded. After completing this special move, immediately draw another card, and then immediately take a normal turn. So you draw again, and play a card. What this means is that any other player that would have went before you is skipped, and play now continues from you. So in a 2-player game, you're essentially giving a player just an extra turn, and then it goes back to player 2. They begin their turn by drawing, and play continues. From this point on, player 1 is immune to flat tires and speed limits and stoplights. There's one more hazard card that I need to demonstrate for you. So we'll have player 1 draw, and they get the speed limit card. They choose to play that card on their opponent. Speed limit cards are placed to the left of the drive pile. So you are allowed to have a speed limit hazard on you as well as a regular hazard card that goes on your drive pile. From this point on, player 2 cannot play any distance cards higher than 50 until they've remedied this speed limit, which on their next turn they are actually able to do. So they'll draw. They will then remedy the speed limit with an end of speed limit card. And on their next turn, they're back to being able to play distance cards again. Play like that continues until one player accumulates 1,000 points or more. That player is the winner. And that's how to play Mille Bornes. The gist of the game is you're trying to get 1,000 points on the table in your zone. And you can't do that unless you're green. If you're green to go, you can throw down point cards. You're trying to keep your opponents from doing that by making them red, stopping them, or even slowing them down with a speed limit card. It's a very simple premise. And I think if there is any complexity to it, it's simply remembering what all the cards do. It's not as if you have a generic hazard card and a generic remedy card. It's, oh, that's a flat tire. I have to play a new tire on it. So you need to memorize the pairs, like which remedy helps with which hazard. And on top of that, you have the very special safety cards, which to some might be game breaking with how much power they actually give a player, making them immune to certain hazards. Well, if you found this video helpful, I've got more card game tutorials for you. And if you'd like to support the channel, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe, ring the bell, and give the video a thumbs up, especially if you found it helpful. If you'd like to go the extra mile, please leave a comment down below. All of those things really help us out. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep on playing.